I am so psyched. I've got the most I've actually ever prepared for a presentation. And this is maybe the presentation that I think I give the most to clients the most often, and that I think could possibly benefit people the most in a short term, I guess, like experience where you can hear it and then you can use everything so quickly to see big improvements in one specific thing. So I wanted to ask real quickly, like I do every time, if anyone has any questions they want to get out up front about anything. And then for this presentation, I actually wanted to do something a little bit differently where I'm going to be going through a lot. I know I'm going to be throwing a ton of information at you guys. So what I want to do is open this up to be a dynamic conversation where I'm talking, and then at any point in time, if you guys want to ask questions about anything, I'm going to stop and answer questions probably around like 5 times throughout the presentation. And then like I normally do, I'll stay on at the end and answer any questions that you guys have once I've talked about everything. So I also kind of anticipate answering a lot of questions before or after you guys ask them. So if you're shy, don't want to ask questions until you hear me present a lot, go for it. Yes, I am. Keely is my assistant. She's looking out because I have gone through an entire presentation and not recorded it and then been very sad later. But yeah, guys, thank you all for coming here. Peter, what's up? Good to see you again. If you guys want to ask any questions before we start about quite literally anything, it doesn't just have to be climbing trips, go for it. I'm psyched to answer a couple questions. If not, I'll get right into it. And I'll also try to make sure that this microphone is locked because I'm struggling. Oh, there we go. T1. T1's coming at me. T1, I got it. Oh, let's see what T1 might have a real name. Okay, I sell homes. I almost said Issel Homes, but Issel's not a word. I think I sell homes is maybe your job. I think I know that Emily. I have a couple friends named Emily, but I think I know this one. Oh man. Yeah, well, that was more just a me question. My trip was the best that I have ever had. For sure, by far, both in terms of how much fun I had, how many people I met, and great relationships I created, how I climbed, the types of climbs I got on. And I felt the strongest I've ever felt. So it was a 10 out of 10 trip, maybe 9.5 out of 10 trip. There was one climb maybe I wanted to try, have been wanting to try that I didn't get to try. Yeah, oh man, Peter, I've got so many more videos that I have to get out there. It's tough. I kind of get a little self-conscious about posting so many videos from the trip on Instagram because I feel like people are like, all right, dude, I get it. You jumped and you climbed on orange and black rocks. Duh. But okay. You can hold your questions. I won't delay this any longer. I'm going to get right into it. And today we're talking about climbing trips and maximizing your success. And success on a climbing trip, I want to start right there. That word success. That has many different definitions for people. For most, when you think of this topic that I'm presenting on today, it's probably sounding like how do you go on a trip and send as many hard climbs or send your project or whatever it is. But success is in the hands of whoever it is and whatever that person wants. So if you're looking at your trips, because today I'm going to be talking about those types of things, if you're looking at your trip, the first thing that you need in order for it to be successful is to understand what you truly want out of the trip. What will you be fulfilled by doing? what is the experience that you want to have? Do you want to go on an excellent, beautiful vacation where you do a ton of awesome things, see a bunch of beautiful climbs, see a bunch of beautiful locations, meet a ton of people, and have awesome experiences, great meals out? Because that's the type of trip that I know a lot of people like to have. Do you want to go on this trip and be laser focused on sending hard? I know a lot of you might want that too. I know that I really like that type of trip, and I like the other trip. So within both those things, and I'm mainly going to spend time talking about the latter, there are many different formats of a trip that you might not know exist, or you might know, but maybe you don't know exactly what gives you the most fulfillment. So before I even go any further, I want you guys to just, I want you to do a little bit now and just really make sure that you are conscious of it. But also after this call, really think back to all of your trips that you've ever gone on in climbing, and think about the ones that you were the most happy during and after, and think about what the objective was and what is it that you did during that trip. So you go on this trip, right? And we're going to talk about the ladder. Like I said, you want to do well. You want to send climbs. You want to get on a bunch of climbs. You need to know exactly when you go into this trip, what is the plan that you're going to go in with? What do you want to do? Do you want to do a ton of climbs? Do you want to just try a ton of climbs? Do you want to do a few? Or do you want to just do one or two mega projects? And of course, the more you do, the easier they're going to be. So do you want to, let's say you're a let's just say you're a V10 climber or a V8 climber. You're in that range, 8 to 10. Do you want to do a bunch of V4 to V6 classics? Do you want to do a couple of harder moderate climbs, like some 6 to 8s? Or do you want to just do one or two, depending on the length of your trip, maybe 3 or 4, really hard climbs? Because the harder it gets, the more sacrifices you need to make. And I think one of the biggest issues is that people don't want to do both, or they do both, but they don't understand the actual sacrifice that it takes to do very hard climbs. So there are ways to prepare for the trip so that you have your expectations and then you have your reality line up. And I think that a lot of people go into trips. I talk to a ton of my clients, and people go into their trips and they send me the list of things that they want to do, not just try, the things they want to do. And they'll give me a list of 12 boulders that are at or a little below their current climbing grade. Example, we've got a V7 climber that goes on a trip. They send me a list of 12 boulders, and they're all V6, okay? And maybe like 1 or 2 are V7. They really want to do these. They've got 12. It's a 1-week-long trip. Okay. That would be an incredible trip. That would be mind-blowingly amazing. What that person might not be thinking about is, how about rest days? Okay, sure, we'll add in 2 rest days. That's usually what they would do for a week. If I were on a week trip and I wanted to do something that close to my limit, I'd probably have 3, maybe 4, honestly, if I wanted to really climb hard. Now, think about it realistically. How long does the average V6 or V7 take a V6 or V7 climber? It might take 1 to maybe 5 sessions. So, if we're looking at 12, the average there might be 1, if they're picking the easier 6s, to maybe like 2.5 sessions for these climbs. So what that could possibly break down to, if they are doing things correctly, is maybe only 3 or 4 of those climbs in the week. So what some people do, and I've seen this trip countless times over, is that person goes on this trip, they get excited, they want to do that many. They try 2 or 3 in the first day. Let's be honest here, now they're wrecked. They just did a huge day out. Okay, that would be like if you did a session in the gym, but beforehand you did a lot of walking. You did even more walking after the first climb, and even more walking after the next climb. And these holds that you were climbing on were all way sharper. They were the sharpest holds in the entire gym. Okay? And now you've done 3 of these. 3 projects in a session. That's the biggest, that alone is the biggest session that I give my clients, and I limit them to 6 attempts each. Okay? So right there, this person has done way more than they ever do in the gym. Most likely, because they're probably given way more than 6 tries. And so they're tired and wrecked. They probably didn't send any of those. Let's give them some credit, actually. Let's say they sent 1. Now, that person better not climb the next day. But inevitably, they do. Okay, they do an easier second day because they also want to do some easier classics. So they do some mods. And then I'm just going to be honest with you guys. The average person, they've got 5 days left of this trip. They usually only send 1 or no more boulders at that grade. If that sounds like what your guys' trips have been like, it's not your fault. You just haven't been on enough trips and haven't had enough experiences to realize that there are better tactics. And it's usually being patient and looking at what is the minimum that I will be happy with. I love to look at what did I do on my last trip that was great, that I was so psyched with. I did this on my last trip to Rocklands. So I've been there now 3 summers in a row. So I'm just going to use it as an example because we were just talking about it. This last trip that I did, not this last one, I'm sorry, 2 before. So not this summer, last summer. I went and I did 2 boulders that were V12. And then I did, I think it was 5 boulders that were V11. And that wasn't my best performance trip, but I was happy. I was happy. I wasn't as happy as that first trip where I did a 13, a 12, and a ton of V11s. Maybe it was like 8 that first trip, but it was also a slightly longer trip. But then this summer, I thought back, I was really happy with my 113 and my 112. And I was also very happy with 2 12s and my multiple 11s last summer. So I would be happy if I did for the first time in Rocklands 2 13s on a trip, and if I did just 2 12s. I'd be so psyched with that. And I had 5 weeks. I took so much pressure off myself. And I looked at what is the minimum that I would be really happy with. And it was what I wanted was much more than I ever did. And I achieved that. And then I sent 4 more 12s and countless 11s. I think I might have done like 10 V11s this trip. And that was because I was being smart. I wasn't trying to do more. I was trying to do the minimum. So every time I went out, I accomplished it. Something small. I just went out and wanted to do 1 or 2 boulders in a day. There were 2 different days of my trip where I did multiple boulders that were harder than V11 in a day. And one of them I knew it was my best friend's birthday, so we just went buck wild. And the other day was the best day I've ever had climbing. So, the approach that you take for a day, if you go big and you try to get a ton, you usually operate with worse tactics. Whereas if you just try to achieve the thing that you're going to be happy with, you have better tactics, you usually end up achieving it, and then you more than likely have extra time after that to now, with good skin and tons of energy, be productive on anything that you want. So I think that if that person that made the list for me said, hey man, I want to do these 12 V6s or 10 V6s and 2 7s in my 1-week trip, but I've only ever done 2 on a trip. If they said, hey man, I just want to do 3, we would have talked. We would have said, okay, let's get on one of them on day 1. Put in a good session, stop before you're tired. Now we'll go either take a rest if you're feeling tired or do a very light working session on the second one. Or really, just go light on both. that first session you get on a climb, it's always the worst session because you're not neurologically adapted to it. That's why the next time you ever get on any climb, you're always like, oh my God, this hold feels so much better. Oh my God, that position feels so much better. I couldn't touch that move last time. Now I can touch it. Yeah, duh, because you went to sleep after you got on it. You made the adaptations, and you're now the body actually learned it. And when you get back on it, it feels easier because it's not the first time you're getting on it. So, I mean, this is a separate conversation, but that is a major concept that you need to look at on your trips. You shouldn't try to get things done in the first session if they feel super hard. Get on it, give it a little bit of effort, come back. I went to so many boulders on this last trip where I just went and I just tried it a couple times, handful of times. And guess what? I could have maybe done more, but I came back 2 days later, finished it off easy because I didn't get tired. I just learned it, didn't waste any energy on something that feels really hard, came back to when it felt manageable and did it. Okay, now, you're going into this trip, right? And you want to have as much strength and energy as possible to get as many things done as you can or be as productive as you could. And you just trained hard, okay? You just trained hard getting ready for this trip. So you want to now deload and you want to be prepared. And what are you really deloading from? You're deloading from a block that ideally was getting you physically prepared for those exact types of moves that you're doing and the exact type of holds that you want to be climbing on. So those muscles and those grip positions are carrying a lot of fatigue. Okay, if you don't let them deload, you don't taper, you're not going to be able to peak for the trip. You'll be carrying fatigue. The way that you want to do these trips ever is you train very specifically as you can, and then you ease off the training, let the body fully recover and super compensate, which is another word for fully recover and adapt to the training and make new gains to be better in the things that you trained. And now you go into the trip without that fatigue, like I just said, but with a ton of energy and reserves. You want to really go in the trip feeling incredibly fresh. I like to feel very fresh for about 3 days going into the trip. Some people like to just have that first day where they feel fresh. No, I like to have a deep reserve so that I can do a little bit more climbing if I want in the first couple of days and gain some confidence, which we'll get to later. And that I don't have such a small little margin. I like to have an insurance policy. Say I don't get a great night's sleep because usually you go to a new place, you don't get the best sleep. Well, guess what? I didn't wreck myself and have this small little line before fatigue. So I deload, I feel great, show up fresh, and now I can do a lot of climbing. The other thing that you really want to make sure of, and I actually ran into an issue this trip that I did not foresee, is condition your skin. Every other trip I've ever gone on in the last maybe 5 years, I show up with perfect bullet hard skin that I treated with anti-hydral because I'm very sweaty. This trip, I had been using a lot of vitamin E and jojoba oil, and I was doing it more often because I thought that I was basically running an experiment that I didn't think could possibly backfire, where I was using it all day to try and get my skin very healthy and thick. And for some reason, that was the only thing that I changed, but the anti-hydral didn't change my skin like it normally does. It wasn't even staying on my fingers at night. So for the first 2 weeks, I really struggled with my skin. So I had to be very strategic, and I'll explain a couple of those strategies later. But the biggest thing you want to do is condition that skin so you show up with good, thick, healthy skin. If you don't like using anti-hydral, or you just want to be more tactile to the type of texture that you have where you're going, get a rock that you find outside and condition the skin just by rubbing it, or do some light sessions outside. Just do like an easier volume day where you don't fall. You just condition the skin. I did a post about that on Instagram a while back if you want to check that out. Now, we're arriving to this place, okay? I'm assuming that you guys are flying to this new location, but let's just say you're doing a long drive. You're going to be tired when you get in. That first day, people are super excited, and especially when you fly into a new place, new country. Like when I get to Rocklands, I'm stoked. All my friends are waiting there. They're all at the boulders. They've already been there for days. I'm playing catch up, basically, like I was this trip. I had to catch up to my friend Brian, who was just crushing it out there. I showed up. That first day, I could have driven in. I didn't. I took a day in Cape Town, and I rested. I knew from the past 2 years that if I go out there, well, really the first year, if I go out there that first day when I just got in, I slept about 4 hours on the plane, horrible sleep. Sure, I got one night where I slept when I landed, about, let's say, 8 hours, but I'm still dealing with jet lag. I'm tired from those 2 nights ago, terrible sleep, airport, airplane food, all of it. And when I show up, I'm excited, but my body is going to be crushed if I go hard when I land there. The other thing is you show up on a trip, and like I said, you're super psyched to get going. It's so easy to just get caught up, justify getting on another climb that day. Everything's so new and exciting, and you finally see the things you've been dreaming of seeing. Having some discipline and knowing that it's still going to be there the other days, and it's going to be, this is what does it for me, it's going to be way more fun to come back to it with more energy and more strength and a bit of adaptation to the climbing zone, to the area that you're in. Other than just coming in, everything's new, you're still adapting to the rock, you're still waking up, getting used to the time zone. It is so much better to just take it easy. Trust me on that one. Ideally, you did a long trip. Even if it's a week long, that one day in the beginning is going to save you those 6 days of misery or regret. The other thing is, you land. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm just going to plug my laptop into the charger. Totally missed that, so we don't die mid. Cool. Okay. Now, you just landed, right? You want to build confidence in this new area, and you want to relieve some stress, okay? People show up, even if it's that V6, V7 climber that I just told you about. That person wants to do some climbing. They want to send something that is impressive to them or that they would feel fulfilled by. Okay, let's say that's something that they were training for, a level like the 6 and the 7. Even sending something that is 1 grade below that, like a 5, even a 4, a beautiful 4, gives you something in the bag. You go to this new area, and I know personally when I've gone to places and I go right for the big ticket items, even if I go and I just put in that small working session in the early couple days or first week, there's a little bit of anxiety that I came all the way out here. I went on this big trip. I've been training so hard, and I haven't really climbed up anything. I haven't been successful in sending anything. Now, this is just really a personal tolerance, but I know that this is true with many clients I've worked with. And if you feel this at all, really respect it. Because when I went on this trip to Rocklands this year, I showed up and I was actually sick the couple days before, about like 5 days before when I left. I could feel that I was still sick when I arrived. Hopefully getting good sleep. I got good sleep when I got in. Wasn't enough. It wasn't great sleep. I was definitely carrying fatigue, jet lag, and I was sick. And I was getting on the harder climbs. And I tried getting a little bit of momentum underneath me, but it didn't really work out how I wanted it to. I was getting on harder things because I knew I had trained so well, and I knew I was performing better than ever in my home wall and before I left. And so I really wanted to get on the things that I knew I could do, which were those, it was basically a 13 and a really hard 12 that I knew I could do, but I was coming up short. And I was getting a little bit, shaken by it. It was a lot of stress. I was really thinking in my head, man, I thought I was so prepared, and I came out here. I'm not sending anything. I literally hadn't done a single climb in about 14 days. I got out there and I was just falling on everything I tried. I fell on like 3 different V12s, a couple dynos that were really hard that I thought I'd be able to do. And I could feel myself showing up to climbs and having confidence down here. I wasn't making good decisions. I was throwing small pity parties for myself. not major. I wasn't like outwardly having a burst, but in my head, I was sulking a little bit. So I took a day with my friend Caleb, and we both were having trouble getting started, and we went and we did 4 V10s in a day. Boulders that we knew were not going to be super hard for the grade. It's 3 grades below what I project and do on trips. And we were able to do them. And that day was so much fun. Flashing 2 of them, doing the other 2 pretty quickly, feeling like rock stars, just like laughing, feeling strong, feeling confident. By the end of the day, I was just feeling incredible. I then was a little fatigued, so I took like 4 rest days after that and just did handless slabs. This one climb Piahi. And I came back, and that next day when I came back, I climbed for the first time ever in my career. I did that V13 that I'd been working on, second try. I did the V12 I had been working on, first try. And I did another V11, third try. I got on the wall 6 times that day, and I had my best day ever. So it was, for me, all about building confidence in the beginning. And this has been a theme on a lot of other trips. I did this on my Swiss trip where I was getting on a ton of V13 and 14s, and I was just having days where it was just that. And for me on a trip, when realistically I only have maybe like 15 days of climbing on a 30-day trip, given like weather and rest days, you spend 8 of those projecting, not coming home with anything. It's your first time in Switzerland bouldering. It's kind of tough for me personally to go on a trip like that and not, be successful in topping a boulder, when that was really my goal. I wanted to send boulders because I love the whole process of that. I love being able to talk about a climb I've sent with other people. I love that feeling of that rush at the top. And it's just something to keep in your head. I have a lot of fun and fulfillment in trying boulders, but I think that I have more fun in just trying or even coming up short on projects after I have successes behind me. So for the rest of that Rocklands trip, after that day, I was fine. I didn't even care about sending anything else. And it was so liberating not having that anxiety that I ended up performing better because of it. Okay, now I want to talk about planning and prioritizing. Now we're going to get into some tactics. So you want to always, when you're looking at a week of your trip, plan it based on 2 things. One, most importantly, your priority. Second, the weather. First is go to your top priority climbs immediately. When people go on trips, I know a lot of the time I'll have clients that tell me like, I'm training for this one thing. I'm training for, let's say like they're going to Bishop. They want to do the Hulk. Okay, they're training for the Hulk. Day 1, they got on like 3 moderate boulders. They got on King Tut, rubber tester, and like the birthing experience. Okay, sick. When do you think you're going to get on the Hulk? My friends and I, we were thinking about going to this other spot and thinking I'll get on this thing and that thing and that thing. They get there and they get distracted. I've had people never get on the thing that they were most psyched about just because their friend wanted to get on other things. They got there and there were other distractions. The boulder in front of you always looks cooler than the thing that you might have seen on video. To me, at least. I know when I show up and you see something that's like in the guide in front of you and it looks cool, that's going to jump out. But believe it or not, the thing that you really want to get on, your top priority that inspired you through video, when you go see that in person, that's probably going to wow you even more than the thing that's in front of you. So avoid distractions and get on your top priorities now, because you're going to probably need multiple sessions to do them. So don't wait. I have personally waited a couple days, and then I get on my climb that I've been waiting for, and then I realize, oh my God, I can actually do this thing, but I only have 4 days left of my trip. I probably need 3 more sessions on it. Ugh. Now I got to come back. Get on it now. So really prioritize. Make that commitment to yourself in the beginning and do it. The second is weather. You need to look at the weather for the week. Know that the weather is not set in stone. It changes from time to time, but try to really look at when am I going to get on what? If you know that it's going to be warm one of the days, maybe that's when you get on your steeper climbs in a roof with bigger holds. If it's going to be really cold, that's when you want to get on that friction-dependent climb with really small edges or slopers. So looking at the weather also helps you decide when you're going to take rest days and when you're going to go climbing. Looking at the weather consistently and also looking at humidity, the time of the day, can really help. Don't do more volume than you typically do in training and expect to feel good. That's what I was saying earlier with that person that goes out and does 3 boulders and then they feel wrecked. Always think about how much you actually do in training. How much are you trained to do? Then look at how much you want to do for the day. And don't forget to take into account that approach. And don't forget to take into account how much food and water you typically drink on the days when you're home and how high quality your sleep experience is. You're home. You're usually sleeping really well at home. Do you sleep as well when you're out in a new place? So think about these things. Your recovery has to fuel and prepare you for the climbing that you're doing. And honesty for me is key. Being honest about how your body feels and obeying it and giving it rest is everything. You know, you can actually, it's funny, I just am reviewing this chapter in my book of rest days, but this honesty is probably the thing that the pros have more than I think anybody else. And especially people when they're on trips, they feel like they have to climb and they justify climbing. And, you know, I have clients that will go out on a trip. They're there for, let's just say 2 weeks. They did some hard climbing today. Tomorrow, they didn't rest. And then the third day, they did some hard climbing. And on that second day, they said like, oh no, I basically took a rest day. I'm, V8 climber. All I did was, a V4 and like 2 V1s. My guy, that is not a rest day. That's a climbing day because you could have been resting, but you pulled hard. And even though it was just one climb, you were climbing. Do you ever do that when you're home training? Probably not. If you wanted to climb, and let's just look at that third day, that person, and you guys, I know you know this, that third day is never going to hit like a fresh day if you had rested. And if that rest day, that single rest day, didn't make you feel back to 100%, and you want to send something that requires you to be at 100%, you need 2 rest days, dude. I took probably 5 double rest days, and I took a triple rest day on this trip. I do it every time. I take tons of double and usually a triple rest day on my trips. Granted, they're about a month and sometimes a little tiny bit longer, like a couple days longer than a month, but it's worth it. I like to ask myself, would I rather climb today and feel freaking fantastic and send these dream boulders that I've always been thinking about doing, watching videos of, training hard for, or do I just want to go climb, probably not get up the climb, probably be in a little bit of pain, discomfort, know that I could be climbing better, know that I'm climbing under my max potential, and just do that? Is that what I'd rather do? Or could I do something else today and then have that exceptional experience tomorrow? Because I do that, or I climb today and then tomorrow have regrets. Being honest is hard. Being honest is really hard, especially at first. But once you do it a couple times, it becomes damn easy. In Rocklands, if you're at breakfast at the hen house, which is where everyone gets breakfast, people almost brag that they're doing double rest days. Because when you're double resting, what happens next is something you're always proud to talk about. And it always works. I'm telling you guys, there's a 0% failure rate of me taking a double rest and then getting on something that I know I have a good probability of sending, but I need to be fit for and at my top. You take a double rest, you are smashing. You are feeling incredible. And even if you don't, you know you gave it the best shot that you possibly could. And you don't have regrets. Okay, now let's talk about what you need to do on these days where you want to get on something that is requiring a lot of pads, and or you've got boulders that you want to go to and you do need pads, but you're the only one that wants to go to it. Two things that we did a lot and that I do on trips a lot is talk to a lot of people, send messages out on Instagram, maybe even post on the Crag or Mountain Project looking for other people that want to get on the climbs you want to get on, because having a lot of pads and rallying pads, talking to other people so that they bring their pads. And let's say you've got two of them, you can't bring two to a boulder that requires 3 or 4 and work it either alone or even with another person. So having more pads is huge, beta. And if you've got a long approach on a trip, or you just have something that requires a lot of pads, stash your pads at a boulder. That way you don't have to carry them in and back out. People do this all the time in many areas, and then come back. I've even stashed 2 pads at a boulder in Switzerland, rented 2 more, and then walked those out there so I had more pads and I didn't have to carry all 4 at once. I actually don't know if I could have, no, I could have fit them all in my car, but saves you a ton of energy. And it worked out. I did the boulder. Okay, now, let's say you do want to do 2 days on or 3 days on. Let's say you've got a 3-day trip. I know that you guys have these, or even like a 4-day trip, and you want, or a 5-day trip. Let's say the classic 2 on, 1 off, 2 on. If you want to do that, you can make it happen, but you need to make sacrifices. You need to know that you can't climb as much as you normally climb in a single day out on that first day. Or if you do, that second day is going to be pitiful. It's going to hurt. You're going to really push yourself to the point where you have a high injury risk because your structures are not used to that. And then the next time you do a double day on, you're going to be starting from an even lower point. That's how a lot of people get hurt on trips. But if you do want to do 2 or 3 days on, think about the volume that you typically do in a 2 or 3 day period. So what would you do? You'd keep it very similar and you would spread out the volume. So let's say if you're 2 days on, and let's just use an easy number, you do typically 1 day on, 1 day off. So 2 days, you're really just having 1 day of climbing. Let's say you do 20 attempts at an RPE of 8 on that 1 day. Okay? So if you're doing 2 days on, you are getting another day of sleep in there. So you would not just do 20, you could probably do a little bit more. Maybe you do, let's say, 25, okay? So you can do a little bit more climbing, maybe even 30. You see how you feel on that second day, but you spread it out, and you do not do as much as you don't do it about half on that first day. You do a little bit less. So going a little bit easier on the first day so that you can start off at a much higher point the second day will allow you to do more because you have less to recover from. And the less beaten down you are from that first day, the faster you actually recover from a small amount. The more you do, the longer it takes to recover. You actually recover slower when you are more beaten down at that very lowest point. Okay. Don't keep going. Mega days are trip killers. If you have a mega day, do not have it in terms of a very long day of many attempts and tons of fatigue. If you have any plans of performing well for the rest of the week, a huge day like that, I know I've had them, will affect your performance for the full week. Maybe 5 days if you're not beating yourself to a pulp like I have, but you're not going to be better in 2 or 3 days. You're still going to be carrying a ton of fatigue. And I'm talking mega days where you're going until you just, you can't. Your fingers are achy. You know you shouldn't be climbing, but you do it because there's that V3 Classics in front of you, and you can get up it. So those days, sure, they're fun to have. They are risky because that's also a way you get hurt. But just know that if you want to have a successful trip, doing that in the middle of your trip is just going to ruin it for the rest of the time. Trust me, I've had so many people do this, and it's something that I'd say 99% of the time they regret. There is the occasion where that mega day is, the highlight of their trip, and they tell me they don't really care, but I think they would have been happier doing maybe 2 or 3 less climbs that day and then doing 8 more climbs than the other days, because that's kind of how it works out to be. Another thing you got to watch out for is days of exploring and walking. They're really fun, but they sap your energy. I know this because I used to do this on every trip, and I even caught myself doing it on this trip. Just taking, like 6,000 steps, but walking up hills, down hills, looking at boulders, looking at new first ascent potential is what I was doing. And I found a couple that were awesome, but I did this on my rest days, and I was noticing that it was catching up to me. So I cut it off, and I realized that I'd rather be climbing and exploring things that I'm going to climb rather than hiking and exploring new stuff. I got it in. It was fun, but it is very tiring. If you're going to go out to a boulder, this is a huge one. You better know where you're going. I've wasted so much energy and blown potential sends because I didn't know where the boulder was exactly, or I didn't know the trail to get there, and lost. I got lost like 2 or 3 times trying to find it, the classic one, and spent 300 to 500 calories that I did not have to spend. So do your homework beforehand. Look on the trail, look on the map, look to see if there are any notes about if that trail is correct. Ask people that you know frequent the area. This has saved me massively. And if you can, if someone's going out there maybe in 2 days, maybe you shift your days around so that you walk out with someone that knows where this boulder is. Guys, I can't tell you how many times I've done epic days where I'm carrying 3 pads or I'm carrying 2 and all my food and water, and I'm an hour into trying to find a boulder that should have taken 20 minutes. Sucks. It's the worst. Also, don't be afraid to put your pads down and go walking on foot to find it. The earlier you do that, if you do get lost and you did all these things, the easier it is. I would way rather walk 10 minutes in a direction to go find a boulder and 10 minutes back without my pads on to find it, then walk for another 30 not knowing where it is, and then maybe find it 45 minutes later. And on these days, when you do have a long approach, a big breakfast is key. I know a lot of people will go with a normal sized breakfast, but they're doing maybe, 20, 30 minutes more walking with their pads with incline. And that's just going to make it so that you are really tired when you get to the boulder, or you now have to wait, eat food, digest, instead of start warming up and getting to climbing. So big days out require lots of food for me, and it helps every time. Okay, does anyone have any questions before I finish this off? Or I might just power through. Emily's always got great questions. Oh my gosh, my go-to breakfast. My go-to breakfast is almost always a sweet potato and 3, if it's a big day, 4 eggs and half of an avocado. Usually with some turmeric and black pepper and maybe a tiny bit of salt. Yeah, that's my favorite. That's if I have a big day out. If I have a small day, I'm probably going to go with a big bowl of oats and some nut butter and protein powder and a banana. Or I know people love to hate on this, but I do the bowl of oats with 3 or 4 eggs scrambled and then mixed into the oatmeal. I know I add Indian spices. It's weird, but I freaking love it. Okay, here are my last ones. Don't get on climbs in the sun. Getting on climbs in the sun is one of the easiest ways to sandbag yourself. You're way better off looking at when this thing goes into the shade and planning your days around that. Sometimes the boulder might go into the shade, or it's in the shade in the very early mornings. If you're not an early morning person, wait for night. And don't just go right when it goes immediately into the shade. Rock's still going to be warm. That's when you should get there, do your warm-up, start giving attempts once it's gotten cooler at night, and cool down a little bit. And if holds are in the sun, you can almost always take a little, a slider or like a blubber pad and either drape it over if it's on the top out, or find a way to prop it up using like a stick or something so that you can block a little bit of the sun and create the shade. I said almost always, but honestly, it's kind of rare that you can do that on in the middle of the climb. It's usually more so at the top, but that has been so helpful in the past, along with rigging up a fan to blow on a hold at the top. It's actually what did it for me on Industry of Cool was the little fan, because I was completely out of skin at the end of my trip doing that left-hand slap over and over. Okay. However, I just talked about conditions, but I would prioritize the personal preference of when to climb over conditions. And what I mean by that is many times on this last trip, in the beginning especially, my friends wanted to go out at night, and so did I, because that's when the boulders get cooler, the temperatures get cooler, and we have better friction on the rock, especially because I was working 2 boulders that were quite friction dependent and sloper intensive. And I went out there, and I don't ever train at night. I don't climb at night home. I always train in the morning. I'm a very early riser, and I feel most energized between 10 and 2, but I do well outside when I'm climbing between 10 and 4. 4 is like the latest. I usually feel a little tired after that. And we were starting our sessions at 5. So while the conditions were fantastic, I was feeling like I had great friction on the rock. My energy levels and my psyche were really low. I was starting to get tired, and even though I was taking a couple caffeine pills at like 3 o'clock to get amped up for the session, or like 4, it wasn't really helping that much, and honestly, it was ruining my sleep that night. So sure, my friends were performing well, and they were feeling energized, but it didn't work for me. So I, from that point on, I decided I was going to climb in the morning. I didn't care if the conditions were a little worse. And honestly, it worked out perfectly, and it typically does. Also, I like climbing in the sun. I don't love climbing at night. I don't love lighting up boulders. It's cool. I will do it sometimes if I have to, but it's not my preference. Okay, now here's a big one. If you, I don't want to say if you take away anything from this, take away this, but this is just so big. This was and has been one of the biggest benefits to my new routine has been pre-taping. You go on a trip and you get on boulders and you come in with great skin. How quickly do you ruin your skin on trips? Or just get, splits or small little flakes on the tips? If you're getting these little flakes and you see that your skin's starting to peel off, take a Dremel or a file. I love using a little Dremel, and buzz that sucker off immediately. Immediately. Because if you don't, it's going to keep peeling up, pulling more skin, making the skin surface unlevel, which is going to peel off the rest of it, and you're going to dig it down, down, down until you do get a split or a sore spot, or just unlevel skin that doesn't have good friction. But the way to prevent all this is pre-taping, especially if you're warming up on things that don't require your full strength, or you're getting on sharp holds that you do plan on coming back to work a climb. There's no reason to put splits in the fingers or peel up skin if you don't plan on sending that session, or you're not on your last day of the trip. Pre-tape the fingers. Takes no time at all, and I cannot tell you how appreciative I was. I like I just said, I peeled the skin off of my hand trying Industry of Cool. That was like the second to last climbing day of my 5-week-long trip. I had perfect skin the entire 5 weeks, and that was why I had the most successful trip I've had. Okay. I just think that bad skin, and I basically I kept going even when I had skin issues is like the worst excuse, and it's always from climbers that climb like under V12. That people do not. It's funny. It's like the more you climb outside, there's it's a graph that has direct correlation. The harder the climb the person climbs, the more aware of their skin that person is, and the more respectful they are. Because you realize, and especially as holds get smaller, skin is everything. It's your friction. It's what allows you to keep going. It is what determines if you can do the move with, a V10 level of grip. You can use your finger strength, or is it just going to smush out from underneath you, or is it just going to peel off? These things have massive grade differences. So, you can be a V13 climber. You can get on a V13 with a small, or let's say a V10 with a small crimp. And if your skin's soft and peeling, it's going to feel impossible because that fingertip's just going to deform around the edge. It's not going to be rigid. It's not going to hold. And it's not going to be like that for many attempts. It's just going to peel, split, and you're not going to have skin. It's going to be extremely painful. So, it's a bit drastic, but preserving the skin should be a top priority, and it is of the elite. Okay, now the last thing is gathering as much possible beta as you can about a boulder. I know some people don't like to, do research online. They like to just figure it out for themselves. I, too, like to do that sometimes. You show up to something, and if it's an obscure climb that doesn't have a lot of a sense, it's really fun to just figure it out for yourself and go through that process. But on a trip, when I'm trying to do a lot of classic climbs and I want to experience the movement, honestly, I want to do a lot of climbing. So I want to know how to do a climb. I want to know as much about the climb as possible so that I can experience it and go experience another climb and not spend my trip on only a handful of climbs. Instead, experience 30 awesome climbs. So get as much video beta as you can. The internet offers many places where you can find video beta. YouTube, throw it into Google, beta cache, Instagram, get it all, okay? Every video will offer you a little something different. You'll see a different size person do it. You'll see different beta. You'll see it from a different angle. Look at the small details of everything. And when you get on the wall and you try the beta, compare yourself to what they are moving like. That little analysis, look at the key differences. I guarantee you when you do this, you're going to watch the video and you're going to say, oh my God, wow, I totally thought that, I was doing what they're doing. Their knee is way further right. Hit pause on both videos. If you have your friend's phone and your phone, pull them both up and watch them. It is incredible how much that can help. Okay, obvious things. Hydration. And obvious things, I'm saying, things that I've mentioned before many times in webinars, or just things that, you should obviously be doing, but I'm going to mention them anyway. Hydration. Should be pounding at least I like to do 1.5 liters of water with a little bit of electrolyte mix before climbing. It just, I don't cramp up. I feel great, energy balanced. I don't get headaches throughout the day. And make sure that you're drinking water all day. It should be more than what you are normally drinking when you're at the office or even when you're in a session at home, because it's not climate controlled. It might be hotter. Even if it's colder, you've been doing more exercise. Okay, you walked in. You're going to be walking out. Eat. Eat. Please eat. Make sure that you're snacking. Have at least 100 calories in the form of fast carbs an hour. And if you're out there for longer than 4 hours and you're planning on doing a day out, bring a real meal, not just a peanut butter sandwich. Bring a real meal. I like a turkey sandwich with a little bit of avocado is one of my favorites. I'll bring rice, like a rice bag, or no, I'd say rice bag because I did that in font. It was kind of gross. A Tupperware full of rice and eggs, or I was doing rice and like packaged meats, or you can do like a little bit of. I loved lox with cream cheese spread, and then peppers, bell peppers on top. That was fantastic on a baguette. Delicious. But something that's going to sustain you. A balanced meal of protein, lots of carbs, and some fats. And just make sure you're eating whenever you're hungry. Like, there's no reason to not be eating. You're just going to be cutting off energy. And that little bit of food weight that you bring out to the crag, I know some people have this thought that if I bring more food out and I don't end up eating it, it's just wasted energy that I spent carrying it out there. I've never, ever regretted bringing food. But what I have regretted is not bringing enough food, being starving, having no energy, and then begging people for snacks. That sucks. I hate being that guy. But I've been there. And warm up. I warm up like a freaking pro every single time I go out. People talk about it every time I'm out there. They're talking about how much I warm up, but I don't get hurt when I'm outside. I always perform as well as I can, and I know that I can. I don't feel like crap when I'm getting warm. Nothing ever feels clunky. I feel great and zippy. My first attempts are awesome and strong, and I'm confident when I'm out there. I'm not worried about hurting anything. And I warm up for a minimum of 30 to 40 minutes. Usually if we get out earlier and we have more time, I'll do a full hour warm up. Taking my time, warming up the full body, dynamic stretching, progressive loading of the muscles, getting my fingers warmed up, feeling the moves, doing a couple warm-up attempts on the boulder or warm-up boulders. Then I get on the thing that's my objective for the day. And just lastly, some elite level tools to consider getting if you want to just use better tactics and learn how to use these things to your advantage. Like I mentioned before, a Dremel, multiple types of fans can be really helpful. The computer cleaner, which is the fast blaster, which blasts out dirt from holds and cools off your fingertips or cools off a hold really fast. The handheld fan, which is a small little guy that you can mount and quickly use a tripod to hold up or put him on bigger holds to point down at a hold. Maybe the hold on the lip on a sloper helps a ton. And then, of course, the bigger Makita fan that you carry out there for your hands to cool your hands down in between attempts, and that you point at the boulder to cool whatever hold you want. Sliders and blubbers, which are great, again, for obviously filling the seams in between pads, keeping the dirt off your shoes at sit starts, and then blocking the sun if you need that. Super glue to help keep the tape on your fingers or to seal a split if it's gushing to then tape up over. Luco tape is the best tape. Do not bother with it with any other tape. I think tension tape is not even close. Luco is the best by far. And then a chalk ball or like a little sock that you can use to chalk up holds is much better than just chalk on a brush. It can get a little deeper and you can swipe the full thing really easily. And you don't waste as much as when you just cover the chalk and the brush in chalk. That's it, guys. Wow, that was almost exactly an hour. I'm 2 minutes short, but man, do you guys have any questions? Now it's question time. I have nothing else. Don't all go at once. I got you. It's Luco tape. I will put it in the chat. It's Leuko tape. It's brown. Although I think they actually make it in different colors now, but I always buy the brown one. Taping styles. Emily, stay tuned. I just wrote a script today about taping styles. If you're talking about, are you talking about the fingertip? Oh my gosh, let me see if I can quickly, let me do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to airdrop a picture that is in my favorites that I've been sending to a couple clients. Here, let me just do this. Oh my gosh, it's going to happen. This is crazy. Boom. It's coming. Yes, okay. So if it's for the finger, here we go. Check this out, you guys. Did that come through? It's loading. Processing. Oh man, I think you guys have to download it. Oh, it's in an HEIC format. Well, okay, well, you can do one of two ways. I made a video on the other way that's not this, but this also works. Here we go. Here, I'm going to drop this one in. There we go. Okay, this is a JPEG format. Okay, there it is. Can you guys see that? That is thin layers are going to conform way better to the fingertip. The tape's not going to bend and fold. And then you get the tape sticking to itself. So the tape that sticks to itself will stick much better also. It's not going to roll and peel on your finger itself. So what you want is to have that stuck to the nail on the back and then wrap and get that little bit of overlay. Or what's even better is crossing the tape. So you do this going down in an X like this, all the way down. And that cross hatching makes it so that the tape has a lower chance of being peeled up because it's not hitting it long and catching the whole thing. It's going to move along the edge. Do you avoid anything on your skin like dishwashing, hot water to condition the skin? Yeah, I'll be honest. Yes, I do. I personally, if I'm going to go climbing, I will use, that's hysterical, I have them right here, rubber gloves in the shower before I go climb. That's just so that my fingers, the tips especially, get really pruny, and then they can even stay like that for a while, and then it takes them a long time to dry back out. So I just like to honestly keep my skin totally dry in the shower, and then when I go climbing, I don't have to worry about it. Oh, almost got the fruit fly that's been plaguing me this whole time. He wins again, I think. Yeah. How would you compare training leading up to a climbing trip differs from or similar to a training leading up to a comp? Of course, you may have an idea what you will climb on a trip, while you'll usually never know what boulders will be at a comp. So, Peter, it is the same concept. You are trying to get as recovered as possible, and you're trying to tailor your training to be as specific as possible. So in a comp, you know that you're going to be getting things that are dynamic, slab, coordination, usually larger macro holds, some volumes, and you're going to be a little stressed. You're going to be having to go 4 minutes on, 4 minutes off. So leading up to the comp, you should be doing some comp sims on the boulders that are exactly like what you know that you might get. You can never train for the exact moves, but you can make the styles and the feelings that you're feeling and your strategies. You want to do a mock comp, so you use the strategies. You can do the same things that you are most likely going to get. It's not the same, but you get close. And leading up to both of these, an outdoor trip and an indoor comp, and especially an indoor comp, it's even more important, is confidence. Sending. You want to be sending leading into the comp. So that last session, let's say you have your last intense session, you should be doing things that are maybe like 80% your max. You're still trying hard, and you have to be, like towards the upper end, but you should just be smashing 8 to 10 boulders in a session, feeling like a champion, being successful, learning how to win. Your training, you don't have to have a ton of those. You should always have some success in your training, but it's especially important at the end. You want to feel like you are so prepared and you're a beast. And still on the topic of skin, do you have any go-to post-climb skin salve routines, brands like Climb On, Joshua Tree, Rhino Skin? Emily, I trialed all skin care routines, and the winner for me personally was, there he is, the fastest skin regrowth by far for me. Wasn't even close. It basically doubled everything else. Vitamin E oil and jojoba oil, which I got confiscated at the airport. I'm waiting on my next batch. And then you put a little bit of Aquaphor on top of it. Now that is if you need to regrow your skin. Okay, that is going to make it come back real fast. But with the Aquaphor, the Aquaphor is going to like double the rate. Just make sure that you cover your fingers. I like to put tape over the fingers. This is if you've got like a split or really worn out tips. But the Aquaphor is going to make it come back really soft. Not an issue if you're an indoor climber. Not too much, as long as you just don't destroy your skin the next session. You just take it a little bit easier, and you don't you irritate it, or you get on the boards where you grab a couple of not fiberglass, but the polyurethane holds. But the vitamin E and the jojoba alone is all I need to recover my skin. It's incredible. And I always will wash my hands. You wash your hands before you put it on, so the skin becomes a little bit more porous, and then it absorbs a little bit better. And you can also keep it really local. Like sometimes I'll actually, if I know that I want my skin to be a little bit, like some of my skin's good, but some is really worn, I'll like put a little piece of tape over the part that I want to keep dry, like the fingertip I like to keep dry, or the base of the finger I like to keep a little bit drier. But that pad, I don't like being too dry. I like it being a little bit more, just a little more elastic and sticky. So I'll just tape up the other parts. Not all the time, but sometimes. Suju's coming in with a good one. I can feel it. Wrist hypertrophy. Okay. Do you mean like making your wrist larger? Or wrist flexor? Yeah. Suju, not going to lie to you, my man. I don't know. I don't think it's possible to make your wrist bigger. I not to my knowledge. Like we're talking this part of your arm, right? Like right here, like the wrist, thicker, bigger. No, I don't think so. But I'm not a doctor. I don't have an advanced understanding of the wrist and its hypertrophic potential. Not to the level I think that is needed to answer this question adequately. I'm so sorry. I know that hypertrophy of the forearm and the wrist flexors is definitely possible, but I don't know if you can make your wrist bigger. I mean, actually, hypertrophy. I think you can get a lot of fat on your body, subcutaneous fat, and that can maybe make your wrist bigger. But I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. Tape pick is helpful, Emily. Thank you. You're welcome. Just thank myself. And okay. I was thinking it would be higher up on the tip. Is it actually not supposed to be that? Oh no, Emily, that's just it's just an example of the taping technique. Like in this picture, you'd probably want to, I was working a climb with a very small crimp. I just literally didn't need to cover the full pad, and then going all the way up to the tip, you want to leave as much of the fingertip as you possibly can. So here we go. If the split is here, I'm not going to tape up here, coming down. I'm going to tape just above the split, maybe 4 millimeters above the split to give it some margin. And then I'm going to leave as much of the tip as I can because I still want my fingertip, my skin, to make as much contact with the hold as possible. I'm just trying to protect the split or the worn part. But then you see how I left a lot of space at the bottom here? So I don't love this picture as an example because you don't want to do that if you're going to be grabbing normal holds. I was literally just working a crimp line where I was not going to be making contact with the base of my fingertip. So I just didn't waste the tape on it. For pre-taping, I don't know if you need to go that high up. Honestly, Emily, I've never worn out the very tip of my finger. Ever. You want to cover the whole pad, any part of your finger that's making contact. If you have issues with losing the tip of your pad, and that's something that you use to make contact with the grips, then yeah, definitely pre-tape it if you think that that's going to get worn out. But I don't think so, or at least not the climbs I'm doing. Come on, what questions you guys got? Howard, give me something. Rikes. What is Rikes? Explain your name, sir. It's a cool name. Oh, it's just Rikes. I think I might know this, Catherine. If you guys are passively listening to this Q&A and you're not around the computer, I'm calling you out. Oh, Kyle, thank gosh. Oh, is that Joy? Joy, do we have a call this week? And Barry. What's up, Barry? Hey, Nicole. Nicole Sky FM. Sky FM Radio. Oh my gosh, Kyle, I think you've been here before. I thought that your picture was a person with a mask over their face. That is actually not the person's eyes. That's a hat. Okay, and that is a cat. Is that a cat? Is that your cat, Kyle? Is that a cat with a cowboy hat on? I want a cat with a cowboy hat on. That's freaking awesome. Okay, how would you project a one-move boulder with droppable climbing after said move? Well, let me tell you, Kyle, I would have that top run until I couldn't drop it ever. I would just, every session, I'd warm up with the top, and I would just make sure that day it felt good. I was ready for it. And then I would practice catching a move in the gym. I would train that move, and I would practice taking a deep breath and getting focused. But then every time I was warmed up and did the top, I'd just focus on that one move. I would just give it, everything all out attempt, nice long rest. Everything all out attempt. I don't know what the move is. Don't know what this climb is. I would be able to tell you a lot more if I had more information, but that is what you should do, is run that top and make sure that you do not drop that top. Do not sleep on memorizing that top and doing more laps. I cannot tell you how many people I've seen punt tops. I don't punt tops. I've punted one top in my career. Definitely don't want to do that. Do you have any strategy on how to pick warm-up climbs when you're on a trip? Yes, Joy, absolutely. If you're looking at an area and you know that climbs are going to be a real challenge and you're trying to warm up for something that requires a lot of energy, or you know that the day is going to be full of a lot of harder climbing, the warm-up should probably be on very predictable climbs that you can see are not going to be too hard. And you also shouldn't really get on things that are going to get you really pumped. You also shouldn't get on things that are maybe very sharp if you don't really highly prioritize those climbs. But you should also get on things that are really inspiring, that are varied, that are a little bit different, but also maybe that find a couple that mirror the style of climb that you're going to be getting on, or the grip types. And try to make sure that you don't get sucked into warm-ups. I know you asked, do you have any strategy on how to pick warm-up climbs? I would maybe not get on things that you think that you're not going to be able to walk away from, because I have countless times gotten on, a V7 when I'm warming up for a V12, and I drop it. And it got me warmed up. It did the job that it wanted to do. I could get back on it to lock in the send, but that's not what I'm doing this climb. I'm doing it to warm up. And I got the attempt. Let's say I fell in the last move. I'm moving on. I'm not going to keep going on that thing. Maybe if I'm back here again, I'm warming up, I'll give it another attempt on another day, but not today. Okay. Do you have advice for how people with somewhat glassy but not really hard, thick skin? For people with somewhat glassy but not really hard, thick skin. Okay. Emily, you should use a little bit of moisturizer. Just a little bit. Yep. That's about it. You should. I wish I could tell you more, but if it's glassy, you just need a little bit more moisture. I would try. Do you take omega-3s? Are you eating enough healthy fats? That can help a little bit. Drinking more water can help a little bit, but you might just need some more vitamin E, or jojoba oil can help. That's all I've got. All right, guys. Last question, and then I'm going to sign off. Thank you all for coming tonight. Anyone got one last? If not, I'll wrap it up. Definitely could use the sleep. I'm going climbing tomorrow. All right, y'all. Thank you very much. I will see you guys soon. And if you guys are ever going on any trips and you need some advice, you know who to call, or just email. Let me know. I'd love to help. See you guys. Have a good one.